13. Amelia drew me back into the stone passage leading to the newly marbled great room, then down the next to my sleeping quarters. My impatience almost got the better of me, but I pushed it down with a few deep breaths until we arrived. Why here? Because you wouldn't want the discussion to fall on meddlesome ears. Must be pretty bad then. It depends on your perspective, and your first inclination might be to grind your teeth as you often do. Is it that obvious? Your jaw muscles work furiously. Either way, allow me to cut to the chase. Dicini left before sunup this morning. She barely got the last word out before I barked. Left? For where? I feared I knew the answer. One side of Amelia's lips slanted, but she stayed silent. I raised a submissive hand. Fine, I'll let you tell me. Thank you. She had Liatra open a portal to New Nin. The reason for her journey to the great elven city on the high cliffs of the northeastern coast of Rubal was obvious, but I didn't interrupt. It would just irritate Amelia, and there was no point in both of us being on edge. She plans to use the portal there, as she did before with the Queen, to follow the chain of way portals back to the west. I couldn't maintain my silence. She's going to find Priya. Her words were, I'm going to scout the situation. Please do not notify Gemini until after the upgrade. I guess she knew you'd be distracted and too enthusiastic to notice their absence. She was wrong. Why did you play along? She frowned. You think I betrayed you? I considered the elven woman's perspective. She probably didn't want to come running to me and lose Dicini's trust any more than she wanted to risk losing mine. Besides, if elves were anything, it was deliberative. Knowing how much I trusted her, Amelia weighed the two sides, and that was the outcome. She continued before I could answer. Well, I didn't betray you. That simple, huh? Yes. How do you figure? Because sometimes it's not all about you, Gemini Fowler. All your bound companions were promised you would never keep them from being where they wanted to be, that they would enjoy free will. And they have? She shook her head. But what value holds a promise until it's been put to the test? She pressed an index finger to her chest. I trust you, but word of this little test of your will, your honesty, will inevitably travel around the Foundation. When people ask where Dicini and Liatra went, and they learn you didn't try to bring them back against their wills, it will garner you even more loyalty. They will see it as an indicator of your honesty, your own loyalty toward them all. So you did it for me. I did it for all involved. You saw how Dicini was, Gemini. Her impatience, her irritation, the way she snapped at anyone who spoke to her. And since you made her your left hand while Pulo is your right, the people here need to know they can trust her. If she's strolling around biting people's heads off, we all suffer for it. None of you understand. What don't we understand? She can't fix this. None of you can. Which leads me to believe you know something the rest of us don't. Heat rose to my face, and my heartbeat doubled its pace. You wouldn't freaking understand it if I told you. The explanation is not of this world, Amelia. She didn't flinch. I'm willing to take your word for that. Dicini wasn't. I didn't have the chance to find that out for myself. That's why I'm pissed. She didn't come to me. But she did. She said as much. After the goddess's appearance last night, she expected Priya would be returned. The two of you argued, yes? I nodded. That added fuel to her fire. Dicini loves Priya. That she would leave all behind to go after the lone member of the Foundation who isn't safe reinforces that, especially when she does it despite laying eyes on the goddess who comes to you in the night. I'm uncertain whether I have such courage. I turned, paced into the hallway, then wheeled on my heels to face her again. I have a Foundation to run. I recommend you do not reach out to Dicini or Liatra. They've made their decision. And how do you know I won't uncheck the free roam box? Amelia strode past me and up the hallway. Her voice echoed off the smooth stone walls. If I thought you a liar, I wouldn't have let them go in the first place. A thought occurred. Hey, wait a second. She turned, pulled her braid over one shoulder, then traced its inner creases with her fingers. You said Liatra and Dicini left. What about Mashini? Didn't she know her sister was leaving? Amelia nodded. She refused to go with her. I see the surprise in your expression, and I was equally taken aback. She dropped the braid, flung her arms out to the sides, and shrugged.
I guess Machini is her own person, regardless of how close they are.
As she turned away, she added,
Talk about loyalty.
The words Liatra spoke to me more times than I could count came on a brainwave.
Where thee goes, I go.
So much for that shit. Someone tapped my shoulder. I turned. Speak of the devil. How do people around here sneak up on me so easily? Machini set her hands on her hips.
I love my sister, but I am not my sister. You would do well to remember that, master.
Then she retreated toward the great room. I called after her. A fair reminder. Thank you for staying. She tossed a lazy wave over one shoulder. On my return trip to the plateau, I gave several flashing icons on the periphery of my interface their due attention. If nothing else, they'd distract me.
Now that you've upgraded to a township, you may summon 10 more laborers for a maximum of 20. Your defender cap has been increased to 75. You may now summon up to 30 cavalry. Your stables have been upgraded to house up to 45 mounts. A new feature has been unlocked in your barracks. Mage Defenders. You may now summon up to 20 mages to defend your foundation. These magic wielders come in the following varieties: Fire Mage, Ice Mage, Wind Mage, Stone Mage, Druid, Summoner. The number of mages you summon will count against your defender cap. Guard towers have been added to the western and northern passes. 1 pine and 2 spruce thickets have sprouted on the northern side of your foundation.
I exited the tunnel and spied Pulo crossing the plateau, accompanied by a short figure with green-tinted skin and a bald head wearing black pants and an overcoat that hung halfway to his knees. I was about to introduce myself when one of the indicators flashed red.
An eligible resource station has been captured in the name of a sworn enemy. Enemy, King Latrell. Name, Broomhill. Rank, Township. Average defender level, 40.
Broomhill? How the hell did they? Then it hit me. The soldier from Tralsby who I'd beheaded said that they'd already slipped right by the elves, under their noses. So, a team, a regiment, something, had bypassed Warrington altogether and made the journey a couple days south to the first town I'd ever seen in Enora. It also answered Timpy's and my question about why the small town's trading status had changed. A name floated in my mind. Branson Breeder. The rotund man with the long mustache was the first to equip Dicini for a life of combat. I wondered what had become of him if the king had taken Broomhill, but it just so happened I planned on going there on my way to see Zara.
You are being offered a quest. Liberation. Your sworn enemy has captured a town in eastern Rubal. Objectives: capture Broomhill in the name of Skyville. Defeat all defenders. Name a mayor. Assign a foreman. Rewards: 25,000 XP, 2,000 gold coins. 1 full level at the time of completion of all objectives in addition to any earned XP. Limitations: party size, 5. Level cap, 45. Note: you can recruit rebels from inside a community in your efforts to capture it.
A familiar figure exited the architect's cabin, then strolled across the plateau toward the alchemist's lab. Yo, Giles! The elf's loose strands of white hair blew wildly off his shoulders to flap behind him when he turned toward me, then approached. Shenhua! Prince? He smirked, then craned his neck forward just a tick. Is something amiss? Seems we're eligible to expand our foundation into an empire of sorts. I never saw it in the guide, but that's what I get for letting Pulo be its replacement. Awesome as he is, tell me about this empire. That soldier who told us they'd slipped past the elves as they moved in on Tralsby? Well, I just got an alert that Broomhill has been captured by the king. He nodded. Ah, it must have been a small group because they chose to take Broomhill instead of Warrington. That's what I was thinking at first, but now that I reassess, there could be a second purpose. What if they opened a portal in Broomhill, brought in soldiers from Tralsby, then marched north to Warrington? Then they'd have your army pinned from the north and south. Possible. He pinched his chin with a thumb and forefinger. The average defender level is 40. The quest I just accepted says I can only go in with 5 people. Isn't that kind of strange? 5 party members to capture a town, and a level cap of 45? Shenhua, what would I have to compare this to? You'll recall I spent my whole life having never laid eyes on a foundation stone until you received one as a quest reward. It seems they're only provided by the goddess to the ones she sends from your world. Right. Well, them's the rules. I wonder what's to stop me from taking 10 of our highest level elves south to purge Broomhill of the invasion force. Like you, I have no frame of reference. Could be that we just wouldn't get the credit for taking the resource asset. Then again, it might be instanced now.
Instanced? Why would it be?
When we entered the Plague Barrens, Giles had regaled us with lore about how Solara imprisoned demons in different instances to keep them out of the world above. In the same way he wouldn't understand instances really just served players. That Solara would separate Brumhill into instances was beyond his frame of reference. But I'd seen it a million times. First one to take the town gets the resources. Let's set aside my theories for a minute. Something else prickling in your brain, Gemini? Maybe the sudden loss of your tank and primary healer, especially in light of a quest to head south with a limitation of 5 party members? Do you have an ability that allows you to read minds? Giles shook his head.
Believe it or not, we often think alike.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Considering how much older and hopefully wiser I am, you should.
You knew about Dicini and Liatra?
Not until Amelia warned me your mood might be sour about 2 minutes ago.
At least you're still on my side.
Taking sides against your own is ill-advised. I understand why everyone involved is thinking what they're thinking, and I can't hold any of you at fault.
I nodded. I'd do well to adopt that disposition.
Agreed. Now to the practical matter. You're absent a tank, and you're missing a healer. With a level cap of 45 and an average enemy level of 42, Johnny is ill-suited for this outing.
I considered that.
And now your ego fuels the need to express it aloud.
I didn't laugh.
No?
Giles sighed.
Fine, you're not in the mood.
Of course not. I was going to send Dicini, Liatra, and Yakol to the front to help you after we cleared out Greycutter.
Forget Greycutter. The siege will serve to cut off that supply line to Trowlsby anyway. I'll speak to the commander of the 2nd Assassins Brigade. I'm sure they'll stay here and aid in the defense of your foundation if the cavalry we encountered outside ever garners the courage to attack. I have plenty of tanks on the front. We'll miss Liatra's heals, but she's one person. Send your Colt to me, and we'll call it even.
More than fair.
In the meantime, I think I can solve for your problem. And since I can't spare any people, I'm happy to see you go south and handle the Brumhill challenge.
Okay, fix my problem.
You must tank.
I was all too familiar with the sensations of blades slicing me open absent any pain mitigation, so that shit was off the table about as soon as he'd spoken the suggestion. But before I could protest, he grasped my shoulder.
Baruda.
What did you call me? His head lolled back and the elf rolled his eyes.
Come, Shenhua. Your Baruda stance is for off-tanking.
He threw out his arm to point to his left.
Did we not spend the better part of a week practicing, where you provoked defenders away from Dicini?
Yeah, but while I can garner hate from enemies, I don't wear plate.
Your armor is lacquered. It's like stone. That won't be a problem. Just take a strong healer, if you can convince her to go.
We didn't have to say the name out loud to know we were on the same page. Yeah, that's the tricky part. She keeps pretty busy.
I think you'll be surprised.
He turned toward the new and improved smithy.
Oh, and providing an interim replacement when you pull her away from her work might push things your way. Give her fewer reasons to deny you.
Between the outer facades of the architects' and masters' cabins, I traced the lines of the freshly upgraded temple. It was a real building, boasted a high-rising steeple, and stained-glassed windows had been added to the sides. Charney wouldn't want to leave it this soon, but duty called. Brumhill waited. I opened a private chat, then invited Sumi, Machini, and Amelia. I typed a single line.
Gemini.
Who's up for a little rebellion? 14. Kint Spindle flagged me down as I descended the steps. The woman Liatra resurrected, then led back to him after we'd escaped the cavalry, matched his speedy gait.
Master Fowler, allow me to introduce my colleague, Soji Gray.
The middle-aged woman whipped off her headscarf, crossed her arm over her midsection, then bowed.
My esteemed honor to meet you. I never got the chance to properly thank you for bringing me back from the void.
I waved. It's no problem. Liatra's used to it by now. Kinst waved his hand in the direction I was heading before he interjected.
May we walk with you, Shenhua?
Sure. I was just going to our chapel. It's been upgraded today. The woman's eyes flared.
It was hard to miss. We were standing out here when the earthquake began, and when the cliff started moving. Well, you can imagine.
Shit, I left them outside. She continued.
Well, I'd love to see your chapel.
Then you shall. Kinst pressed his hat to his chest and revealed a spherical bald spot surrounded by an otherwise fluffy nest of chestnut hair swirling around his head in the breeze. After you aided us, I reached out to Stonespire's mayor. It'll be of little surprise we've all heard of you, but when I told him how those thugs accosted us and how you went to rescue Soji, he insisted we pledge allegiance to your foundation. I halted my march. Really? Both travelers nodded, but Soji answered,
Without question. The mayor insisted we give Skyville favored trading partner status.
The relevant information popped into my HUD as if it had heard her.
Now that your foundation has reached the township rank, smaller communities may pledge their allegiance to Skyville. In addition, your township may pledge allegiance to larger communities as long as the population outnumbers your own. If the population of a community pledging allegiance to another surpasses that of the benefiting partner, the pledge will be nullified, but separate contracts can be scribed between partners when this occurs. Any of the following pledges fulfill the criteria for allegiance. Favored trading partner. Requirement. Pledgee must maintain a reputation of friendly with the pledging community. The pledger offers a discount on traded goods or some other economic benefit not offered to other partners. First state status. The pledgee is recognized as the official capital of their territory, although the pledgee's community is a separate entity. Requirement. Pledgee must maintain a reputation of friendly with the pledging community. Treaties. The community to whom allegiance is being pledged may also offer a return pledge to create a binding treaty between the two parties. Note: Pledge of allegiance can be withdrawn any time, but treaties, like contracts, can only be broken when the party breaking it pays the stipulated penalties. Any of the following pledges given in return for a pledge of allegiance fulfill the criteria for a treaty. Tier 1. Pledge to defend. The pledgee promises to come to the defense of the smaller community or pledger in times of war or other conflict. Favored harvester. The pledgee assigns a segment of land in the pledgee's territory with access to natural resources for the smaller community to harvest in return for economic advantages. Tier 2. Pledge of peace. Favored fellows. The pledger is allowed to reside on the land where they harvest material for the pledgee's community. Although captured communities become part of your foundation state, pledgers do not surrender their autonomy when offering their allegiances unless a statehood treaty is signed by both parties. Dual citizenship. The pledger is allowed to reside in any township or city that falls under the pledgee's domain as a citizen. This treaty is reciprocal in nature.
Mind blown. I gave a deep bow of my own. I consider it an honor that you'd choose to make us your favored trading partner, and we gladly accept your pledge. If you'd be so kind as to allow me a little time to deal with some regional business, I'd like to bring my council together to talk about the possibility of a treaty. Soji shook her head.
The mayor was clear. There's no expectation you would reciprocate our gesture. After all, it's you who saved my life. And even though we lost some goods, you can't put a price on a soul.
A soul? More like a bunch of ones and zeros that formed a digital being. Or that's what I was telling myself to keep my emotions in check on other matters. It was our pleasure to help. Still, I plan to discuss it with my people.
We appreciate the gesture.
I pulled open the door to the chapel to allow the pair to enter before me. The place was barren, which was no surprise following an upgrade. The citizens were checking out their new digs, and Pulo'd already scheduled meetings with different laborer types to discuss changes. Charney stood behind the altar atop a raised platform Moggy'd built prior to the upgrade so the goblin could be seen by worshippers in the front row when the pious Foundation members filled the pews. Yo, Weaselface. I was wondering if your altar could drop a blessing on these two for their return trip.
Hey, Monkey Breath, check this place out.
He threw up his arms, then his mouth widened to reveal the sharp goblin teeth beneath. His sisters were more human, and seeing Charney's made me grateful for it. The arch at the center of the upgraded chapel rose about 10 feet higher than before, and I'd noticed an increase in pews when I entered. Charney dropped his hands.
And yes, if you two just kneel before the altar and send a kind word to your creator, it will do the work, as long as I'm in the vicinity.
I wondered if the Michonne showed up as often as they did because the blessings from the altar buffed their production. It was just the kind of thing Pulo would recommend. Kinst Spindle knelt.
How kind.
Soji threw the stone altar a curious gander, but eventually knelt next to her comrade. They dipped their heads, then their lips moved without sound. A moment later, text popped up and rose skyward, as if from their skull caps.
plus 10% movement speed. Duration, 24 hours. Plus 5 stamina. Duration, 24 hours.
The vendors thanked me a final time, and I returned the sentiment. We genuinely look forward to growing Skyville's relationship with Stonespire. I bent my head forward. Soji smiled. Kinst saluted. Then they were off. Charney, gonna need you to do something for me. The goblin shot me a suspicious look and got a close-up of the lines on my palm to stave off any objections. And it doesn't require you to engage in any kind of combat. After listening to what I had to say, he threw up his hands again, this time for a very different reason. He closed his eyes and his jaw slackened like it was on a hinge.
Why would I want to cater to a bunch of sniveling, ungrateful...
I flicked up an index finger. Out of gratitude to the woman who trained you. I added the middle finger. Because I asked you to. Then I dropped the pointer to flip him the bird. And because I'm going to capture Broomhill for the Foundation. His forehead wrinkled, and his eyelids receded.
Oh, now you have my interest.
Good.